Jason, good evening. How are you?
God, I can't think of a worse radio station than one that plays me 24 hours every second of the day. So no thanks. How much longer before Abby's back? I have to know that before we can move forward.
She got back this afternoon, so she's
thank God.
back. Yeah,
Thank
she's
God.
back. Yep.
Okay, good.
Seriously.
Good to
Honestly, thank God. No joke about that. But I mean, listen, she had a great time, which is great, but it was time for me. It was time. Like I was ready. So
I am sure you were better than you give yourself credit for, but we are all, as we established when you served as the cousin sub earlier this week, we all married up. We are all lucky to have people that keep the ship going when we let's put it this way. It is a beautiful cruise when Abby or Paula is running the show. When we run the show, the boat doesn't sink. It didn't sink, but it certainly is choppy water from time to time.
Correct. Yeah, it's not the nicest. It's not the smoothest sailing. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
It's not the smoothest.
Yeah,
So
fair enough.
I know these don't mean much, and I mean, I never took one or anything like that. But has Green Bay had any guys in that you know of, or have they brought any guys in their official 30 visits or anything like that?
They have, and they actually mean more than you think. Now, it is interesting though what you just said. So how much interest did you know the Packers had ahead of time? Because I don't think everybody knows that story.
I had absolutely no interest. I had no idea about anything. I mean, I had the 10-minute conversation with them at the Combine, and that was about it. That's all I knew, or that's the only time I spoke to them, was at the Combine for 10 minutes.
Right, and in 2018, Jer Alexander told us after they drafted him, he had no contact with them at all. He had no idea they were interested. And obviously he's a two-time All-Pro. So the reason I bring that up is that going back to 2018, during the Gutey era, the 30 player visits actually have come to matter quite a bit. Now, it's not always a first-round pick that gets used on them, but it is a tool that Gutey uses, and I want to credit 𝙃𝙊𝙐𝙍 from Packers Wire who compiled this list. In 2018, the Packers drafted or acquired 7 of the 30 players who visited. In 2019, drafted or acquired 6 of the pre-draft visits from their top 30. Obviously, with COVID in 20 and 2021, they were virtual and there was no limit, but they did have one of those virtual 30 visits with their quarterback now, Jordan Love. So that was significant. I remember when that happened, and I thought, oh, this is a real thing now. 2022, 6 of their top 30 visits were drafted, including both Devontae Wyatt and Christian Watson. And 2023, 7 of their top 30 visits, including Dontavion Wicks and Carl Brooks. And then last year, only three, but one of them was Edgerrin Cooper. So they do matter. They definitely do matter. And so as of now, the visits that they have had, Shamar Stewart, the edge rusher from Texas A&M, James Pierce, edge rusher from Tennessee, Washington State offensive lineman, Asa Pohl, and I think that's all that have been confirmed at this point. I know Shamar Stewart posted a picture of Lambeau Field when he came on his visit, so I had seen that. But, it's still very early in the process, but those are 3 of them, and I know that there's a wide receiver from Texas, a kind of a little guy, so I don't think he's necessarily a high draft pick, but they also don't use them that way. Like, it's not going to be for the Bryan Bulagas necessarily. Obviously, Devontae Wyatt was a first-round pick, but more often it's day 2, day 3, or even guys that they want to sign as undrafted free agents.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Like, I thought Ted normally used those to find, like, just, see guys and talk to guys that were going to be late round and free agent type guys is what I'd normally
You're right.
remember
Yep.
those visits, if I'm not mistaken. But
no, you're not. I would say this. I think Gutey has probably changed that thought process slightly, and now he uses it for both. But that's 100% true. Like, and I think it's also, I think they view that as something of a recruiting tool, right? Like when you're trying to decide, let's say you're a guy that you thought you were going to get drafted, and instead you went undrafted, but you got 6 or 8 teams chasing after you. You know, obviously the signing bonus, because a lot of those guys don't get one at all, that factors in, so you get some money in your pocket. But it also, I think it goes a long way to be able to say, hey, we had you in for a visit. We obviously liked what we saw. We're going to give you a good chance to making this team. I think they probably use that recruiting tool still as well.
I do have to break in here. The Brewers lost the game to the Yankees 4-2. They were down 4-1 against Devin Williams, had the bases loaded, no one out. He came in the ninth, and they got a sac fly to make it 4-2, but did not score after that. And in addition to a change, Kevin Willard leaving Maryland to go to Villanova, there's now a report of a possibility that former Marquette coach Buzz Williams will be leaving Texas A&M to go to Maryland. I have no inside information other than that. He's always said you can stay at a place for only X number of years, and then you need to move on, and maybe that's what's happening. But anyway.
Wow. Did you just get that text from him?
Did I get a
Came
text
across
from
your desk.
Yeah. Did you just get that text?
Which text? Are you talking to me?
Yeah, from
you.
Buzz.
No,
from you.
Buzz.
Yeah, you.
Buzz.
Me?
No, wait a minute. I know Buzz, but not that well. No.
Okay.
Buzz is not telling anybody. Like he said on my birthday once that I was one of the top 5 people in the world that he had ever met. And then when I asked him to do an interview when he left to go, left Marquette, he said, "Nah, I can't do that." I said,
But I'm one of the top 5 people you've ever met.
I said, if I was top 3, would you have done it? And he said, come on, Homer, don't be like that. Anyway, so.
Willard's the guy that got up there at the podium during the NCAA tournament and, like, laid out publicly all the stuff he wanted Maryland to do to upgrade the program,
right,
to set the stage for him to be able to leave and say, well, they wouldn't do this stuff, so I went to Villanova, right? Isn't that him?
Yep.
Yeah, he's the one that said that his AD was leaving before it was even announced, and that nobody was actually controlling the sports department and everything like that, and handling anything, and that he wanted to keep his team a day extra long for a New York City trip over Christmas, and they didn't have the money to do it, so they couldn't do it for him. They said so. I
actually have stated I think that Maryland's a better job than Villanova, but clearly he doesn't. He doesn't think so.
He disagrees. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Jay Wright made Villanova. And
I agree with that.
They're not going to – I don't believe that anybody will equal what he did.
All right, Jason,
but
I also want to ask
I apologize now.
No.
Bryan Bulaga would like to get back to football, please.
And I agree with him. Nicely done.
No. But I like talking this stuff about the coaching stuff because they're hypocrites. So, like, I like talking about it because they're all like they're the coaching carousel they're hypocrites. So, like, I have no problem calling it out. It's actually amazing to me. But Homer tells me to be quiet every time I bring it up, and he tells me 100%, Brian. It's 100%. It's 100%. I don't know why you keep talking about it, but I got to keep talking about it because nothing's happened. What is going? Jair is still on the roster. So, what are you hearing about it? And what? I mean, is he?
And which will get decided sooner, Jair Alexander or Aaron Rodgers?
I mean, that's a great question.
That is a great question. Look, as we've talked about multiple times, the structure of Jair's contract, there was no deadline here. There was no payment due in the form of a roster bonus, and those are such critical tools in the offseason for both the good and the bad. If you want to keep a guy, that's a built-in opportunity to create cap space because you take that roster bonus, you convert it to a signing bonus, then you spread the cost, the cap charge of that bonus over the future years of the contract. So If it's a guy you're keeping, you like to have that in there because it's a way to generate more cap space. If it's a guy you're not sure if you want to keep or not, it makes you make a decision. And it's good for the player because then they know, hey, they're trading me, they're cutting me, whatever it might be. Now, what was interesting was that in the Rams case with Cooper Kupp, that they actually paid him the bonus, I think, and then they were still going to release him. It was like kind of a golden parachute, like a going away gift. Hey, thanks for helping us win the Super Bowl. Here's your bonus, but we're still trading you. But more often than not, that's a tool to get a decision made. Well, in Jair's case, there is no bonus, so there's no financial incentive for them to trade him, cut him, decide what their future is with him. So that is part of this equation. I think the other part is that because they don't have that pressure, they can wait, and he's probably not going to come to the off-season program anyway. He does have a $700,000 workout bonus, so sooner or later.
That's my question. That was going to be my question. When does the off-season program start? Yes, I would too. I would definitely. Yeah, it's before the draft, so it's April. I don't know, April 15th, 16th. I'd have to look it up, but I'd be walking through those doors.
No doubt, right? Pay that man his money. I'm coming to all the workouts, and look, I said this to you guys. I know I don't remember which show I was on with Brian, if it was our show or this show, but I did say that there is some sentiment in the building of, look, this guy can still play. And so if they can figure out the Rubik's Cube that is, A, keeping him healthy, and B, keeping him engaged, happy, whatever you want to call it, I do think that there is some sentiment among the coaches, at least. I don't know about the general manager or not, but definitely among the coaches of, hey, can we work out a pay cut? I know Rob Domofsky had a piece on ESPN.com in which he said that they have not offered him a pay cut because they don't believe he would accept it. So, again, if the only way you find out if he's willing to accept it is if you broach the subject. Like, hey, look, Jair, we don't really want to trade you, but we can't, with the injury history of the last 2 years, if we give you a contract that allows you to make up every penny that we would be asking you to take in a pay cut, if you're healthy and you won't lose a single cent, would you be interested in that? Again, I think Rob's probably right? If I'm him, I'm like, no, I'm good. I bet somebody else will pay me. And it only takes one team to be willing to pay you. Maybe it's, maybe he gets to go home to Charlotte, right? Because they seem to make mistakes all the time personnel-wise. But my point is that there's really no motivation to do anything, and the Packers don't have any sort of deadline to get him off their roster other than what we're talking about here, which is how do you feel about him walking through those doors to come to the off-season program, and do you ask him not to come? Then you get into a whole other issue. So I don't know what they're thinking. Gutey will be at the NFL meetings this week. I think Wes Hodkwitz from Packers.com said he's getting down there on Sunday. So starting then, we should be moving, and there'll definitely be questions about, hey, we saw you at the scouting combine. Jair was still on the roster. Here we are at the NFL meetings a month later, and he's still on the roster. What's the deal, man? And we'll see how Gutey answers that
Has it
question.
increased your belief that he could come back?
No, I still think it's a long shot. Again, in the conversations that I've had, there are coaches that are like, look, if we can just unlock him, he's still a good football player. And Brian watches the tape. I think he would probably agree with him. But that's as I said to the person I was talking to, who said, if he's healthy, he is still an elite player. And I said, yeah, if he's healthy or if he's playing. And that's the question with him. And fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. What is it when you fool me 3 times? If we go through another year and he misses another 10 games, then whose fault is that?
I mean, yeah. I listen. I get it.
I don't
from that
think that
side
it's
as well.
anyone's fault. I think you would take him with the understanding he's going to miss X number of games. It's worth the risk. Are you willing to
not
take
at
the risk?
$16 million.
Oh,
He's
all
not
right.
worth that.
All right. How many does he have to play to be worth it? 10?
12.
12. All right. I loved it. That was quick. Mr.
Yeah.
Bulaga, do you have a close? I didn't want to interrupt your.
No, I
But
don't.
he did. But he did.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes,
I don't-
that's correct.
I don't want to interrupt you, but I did.
I apologize. I will never say I didn't want to interrupt you.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
that's-
don't have much of a close, but
that
I
was
mean,
you know what we call that? A Kevin Willard.
yeah, that what's a Willard? I don't know, Jason. Just to put as Tausch likes to say, put a bow on that. I don't know if they're allowed to tell him you can't come to the off-season program because now you're bringing the PA into discussion with a guy under contract.
Yep. And I know that there have been instances of that before where they have asked a guy to do that, and I think they negotiated like hey, we'll pay you the bonus anyway, and you don't have to come and stuff like that. But to your point, I don't think you want it to get to that, right? You want to make your decision and move on. And whether that's, hey, come on back for the off-season program, we're going to keep you. And that doesn't mean they have to. They could decide in training camp or later in the off-season, you know what, upon further review, we don't trust you that you'll be able to be available or that you're going to not be disgruntled. So they could keep that option open by him coming to the off-season program. No doubt about it.
Yep. That's the way I would handle it, unless they're just really ready to be done. Right? Like, I mean, that's
I suppose the only risk is that if he's going through the off-season program and he suffers some sort of freak injury, and then you're on the books, then you're on the hook for his latest injury. Like, I can't imagine that after the scope on his knee, this isn't like a Dave Bakhtiari thing, right? Like, you could release him and then you still end up being on the hook for owing him because he's still not recovered from the knee injury. Like, I don't think this is a scenario where he's not healthy enough to be released and that they would be stuck with some sort of bill. But they could be if they brought him back for the off-season program and he somehow tears his ACL running around in the Hudson Center.
Yep. I know what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. You don't want to risk that either.
Thanks, Jason.
All right, guys. Take care. Be good.
Jason Wilde, all Packers all the time. And yes, you go to WisconsinOnDemand.com, hit Jason Wilde, and see everything he says on all the stations.